Good evening to all of you. I hope that you're having a great day and an evening as we're about ready to usher in the most glorious day in the entire human history. I know that George spoke to all of you just a few moments ago, but I just want to echo how grateful we are that you're here and that you're worshiping with us. We love seeing the house of God filled up and to see your presence here. And I just want you to know how much I enjoy having you here. It's an amazing feeling to see this church totally full. And listen, if you are new to our church, please make it a point to introduce yourselves to our welcoming team that are in the very far back of our church. You can also have the opportunity as you came in. There was a survey card that kind of tells you, basically, if you wanted to hear us give a sermon about a topic, maybe there's something that's been on your mind that you're like, you know what, I want to know what the church stance on a certain topic is. We want to know. We want to make sure that we're a church that is meeting your needs. And then, as I mentioned earlier, at the very bottom of that survey card is an opportunity for you. If you're new, you can also share with us just some ways that you'd like to get involved in our church. But before we begin tonight's divine liturgy, I just want to give you some words of encouragement to all of you. Today I want to talk to you about living a resurrected life. I love words. Words have power. And one word that I love especially is the word love. It's probably the most powerful verb in the entire English dictionary. It symbolizes action that people are taking. I think about God. I think He looks at all of us tonight and says, I love you all so much that it hurt. I love you so much that I would rather die a miserable death so that you can live. I love you so much that even though you're down here, I'm preparing a great place for you up there. I love you so much that you may be walking in this church right now and you may have cancer on your heart. And God's telling you, you may be dealing with it here, but it's not there. You may be walking into the church tonight and have a worry or a stress about a child. Maybe you have a fear about a medical concern that you're going through. You may have walked into this church and right here you're dealing with it, but can I just tell you all some great news? It's not up there. God gave us this amazing gift. And the question that you and I have to always ask ourselves, especially at services like this, is what are we going to do with the gift that God gives us down here so that we can enjoy all of God's blessings up there? Several weeks ago, I read this story about Gandhi. Many of you remember the story of Gandhi, the history of Gandhi, that in the early 1900s, he was looking to set apart, to create a nonviolent protest against the British occupation. They had been occupying that country for years and years. And so Gandhi, being a very simple man, was living in a tent, very humble. And one day, right after Easter, one of the traditions says is that right after Easter, some Christian British soldiers happened to come to his tent. And as they came into his tent, they were all haughty and very arrogant. And they walked in his tent. And as they were about ready to give Gandhi a piece of their mind for why he was setting up this violent or this non-violent protest against the British occupation, as they walked into the tent, off to the side, they saw a beautiful icon. And some have even argued that it may have been an icon of the resurrection of Christ. And they looked over at that icon and they looked at Gandhi. They said, Gandhi, why do you have an icon of the resurrection of Christ and you're not even a Christian? And then Gandhi looks over at them and just as humble as he always was, full of love, full of compassion, he looks at those British soldiers and he says to them, if you Christians would do what this man taught you to do, I would hand you all of India. India is not a Christian nation to this day, with 1.3 billion people in that country. And can I just give you all a word of encouragement tonight? That maybe what God is telling all of us tonight, that I hope that this just simply tugs at your heart, that maybe God is telling you that, hey, it's great that you're here tonight, and we are all so happy that you're here tonight, but maybe God is telling all of us, can you try your best down here so that you can experience all that I have for you up there? And one of the most powerful Bible lessons that we hear about on Easter is this message from the book of Ephesians. Paul is writing this while he's in jail in Rome. and he's writing to the people of Ephesus. And he tells them, it's a very simple statement. He simply says to them, hey, all of you, you were living in darkness, but now you've experienced the new light. And God never tells you what you are without telling you what you can become. He says, you were in darkness, but now I need you to walk as children of light. Like one of the reasons why you're in this dark church right now is because it symbolizes the old, the darkness of a life without Christ. And what he's telling you and me is he's saying, listen, you've now received this light, and not only do I want you to simply receive it, I want you to start walking like it. So how do we walk it? How do we take this service tonight and change the world with it? Just two things today. Here's the first. Why don't we choose tonight, friends, to give God all of us, because he gave us all of him. What you need to know, church family, is this. And you know I speak because I love you so much. I'm being so honest with you that the enemy is still at work. You know, when Jesus Christ, after he got baptized and accepted his faith and decided to follow all in with God, you know what the most powerful Bible verse says? It says that the devil left him, not permanently. He just simply waited till an opportune time to come back. Some of us right now are in an opportune time. And one of the greatest weapons that the devil will use against you and me is he'll say, hey, look, you can have this service. I'll give you the service. I don't mind you being at this event. But just don't let this event be an invitation to change your life. Like one of the greatest weapons he wants for us is, you can have tonight, but don't let it change your Monday, your Tuesday, or your Wednesday. And for many of us, one of the greatest things that he is using against us is what I call the weapon of mass distraction. He distracts us. So you're like, you know what, next Sunday, I don't need to be here. Gosh, I work 6 days a week, man. I'm just so tired. It's a distraction. God knows that I love him. I don't need to be at church. It's a distraction. I love God. He knows I'm here at the Easter service. He's like, yeah, distracted. And I just want you to go all in. Like God doesn't want to be your Easter God. He wants to be your everyday God. And I just encourage all of you to put him at the center of your life. Like, look into my eyes. I can't see you, but you just look in my eyes, okay? Why don't we just make a declaration that every one of us, beginning on Monday, non-negotiable, if we're truly going to celebrate this invitation that God has given us, that non-negotiable, every Monday, every single day, we're going to give 15 minutes of our morning to God, non-negotiable. I'm going to spend 5 minutes saying, God, I'm praying to you. I just want to thank you. I'm going to spend 5 minutes reading the Bible, because I know that Father Nick tells me all the time that dusty Bibles will always lead to dark lives. And then I'm going to spend 5 minutes every single day reading something that's going to inspire me. And if you don't know, Roxanne and I every day send out a daily inspirational message. No strings attached. We just do it because we feel God has put that on our heart. If you want it, call the church on Monday. We'll make sure you get it. I'm just simply going to go all in with God because he went all in with me. And here's number 2. Is that we serve others because God first served us. Can I just tell you all that every single week, it's got to be at least once a week, I just simply get this dream. And in this dream, I just want you to kind of picture it for a moment. God is right before me, and I can't see God. I just simply hear his voice. And he simply just looks at me, and he says, hey, Nick, you're up. And it's just me standing before God on my day of judgment. And he says, hey, Nick, what did you do with my Christ? What did you do with my son? What did you do with that resurrection that I gave you? Let me ask all of you, what are you going to do with the resurrection? What are you doing with his son? Because in our world right now, outside the doors of this church, every 3.5 seconds, a child is dying of hunger. Every 8 minutes, one of us, a Christian, is dying around the world simply for wearing a label that says, I am a believer in Jesus Christ. That every single year, 100,000 of us are dying. And I'm just encouraging you all to realize that God is not blessing us to simply keep the blessing. He's saying to share the blessing. And the greatest thing that you can tell, that you can give back to God, friends, is to recognize that the greatest gift that you give is not what you can get, it's what you can give to people. So how do we do that? We see who they are. Stop hurrying through life, everyone. Slow down and look around. Look at the people that may be sitting in your pews that are going through a difficult time right now. Look at the people that are at the corner of the roads asking for money. Look at the sadness that we're seeing in the Ukraine right now. Let's do something about it. Look at where they are. All the needs that we see that are going on, and look at how we can make a difference. The value of your life is not what you get, it's who you serve in this world. I leave you with this thought. There was this story that happened back during the time of Theodore Roosevelt. You may have heard of it. These missionaries, these older missionaries, had been spending time in Africa, 60 years, preaching about the resurrection of Christ, preaching about how Christ died on the cross, rose after 3 days. They were preaching this and changing lives 60 years in the continent of Africa. Thousands of people came to know Christ because of these missionary people. And so they're on their way back, they're retiring, and they're in a ship, and they're on their way back. Unbeknownst to them, they find out later that Theodore Roosevelt is on the same ship. He's just come back from a trip, a hunting expedition in Africa. And as they're coming into the ship, all of them together, they start seeing all these people greeting Theodore Roosevelt that are at the port, giving him a big round of applause. They're just saying, the president's back. They're so excited. They're waving up. There's confetti being flown throughout the air. And as he's coming there, everyone's just simply smiling, so excited. Jubilation is happening. That couple looks over at each other and they're thinking to themselves, we spent the last 60 years doing God's work, telling them about what Christ did on the cross and how he rose after 3 days. No one knows that we're coming back. We're not getting any fanfare. No one's speaking about all that we've done. It really got on the inside of them. That night, the husband stood before Christ and just simply started to pray about all these blessings, all this excitement that came to Theodore Roosevelt. And as he was praying, he just heard a voice down the inside saying, when he was saying to himself, why aren't we getting that? He just heard a voice that on the inside said to him this, it's because you're not home yet. You're not home yet. And I'm just encouraging you all, we're not home yet. But in one of the most powerful parts of the Bible is right after the resurrection, there's a man named Stephen. Stephen gets killed for his faith. The only time in the entire New Testament where Jesus, who we say sits at the right hand of the Father, only time. And Stephen dies and is going up to heaven. The Bible says that Jesus Christ stands to welcome Stephen. And can I just tell you, why don't we live our best down here so that we can get the standing ovation up there? That we would go all in with God because he went all in with us. That we would serve him by serving others that are in this world. That I'm going to make a declaration today that this is not going to be an event in my life. It is going to be an invitation for me to change my life. God bless you. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit.